What's with all these badass women in movies and TV who still need to be rescued by men? Or the ones who can defeat armies of muscle-bound henchmen bare-handed, but have to do it in skin-tight suits and high heels? And what's up with those badass women who never wanted or needed a man until our suave hero sexed her up, and then she dies? Welcome to the Outrider Podcast's 7-part series, Problematic Badass Female Tropes. I'm your host, Jason Quinn Malott, and I'll be talking with the writer, performer, and all-around badass who identified these tropes, my friend Jenn Zuko. So strap on some pasties and a merkin, and let's do this thing. So here we are, episode 6 of Problematic Badass Lady Parts. Number 6, of course, is one of the guys.
Sweet pussies.
And do you have anything to throw out before we get to this one? I mean,
do you
want me to summarize this one?
Sorry, I'm eating chocolate.
That's okay. You are allowed.
I didn't go. Thank you. I did not go and reread this one.
You have my permission as the man to eat your chocolate.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, man, in this scenario, for giving me permission to eat chocolate.
Just thought we'd really, get that whole sexist thing out front here with this one.
The man in this duo is giving me permission to eat chocolate when I have PMS, so that's great.
Right.
Cheers.
A couple thousand miles apart, you really need.
Oh, wow. That is a really sweet red wine. Holy shit. That's a dessert wine. Okay. That's cool. It's dessert. Hey. So yes. I didn't go reread this one because I was really busy choreographing fight scenes and stuff all week. That's one of the things that I do, as it says in the article. It describes it kind of in detail. So I was occupied with that kind of thing. But it's also, this is the meme that's kind of part of my life.
Right.
And that's why I use a personal anecdote in the article.
Right.
And it's actually kind of fucking my entire life. I think that when I write the book that's based on all of these tropes, I'm going to really spend a lot of time on chapter 6 because it's like I could just keep seeing it, especially once I wrote this article and did the research and buckled down and really crafted my argument and stuff like that. I really started to see holy shit, this is my entire life. And side note, which is related, but it's a kind of a cute side note. So my partner and I, we went to high school together. We had a long gap of about 25 years where we never saw each other, but we were kind of sweet on each other in high school. We never did anything about it. So I'm, of course, now that we're together again, I'm going back and going, okay, so where's all the pictures from high school that I can find where he and I appear together? And there are hardly any. I mean, there are a couple really giant group cast pictures in the theater department where there's a giant mob of 30 kids and he and I are in the same room, but we're not really we just never we hung out a lot at school, and he walked me home to the bus or walked me to the bus for a year and a half. But we never appeared in any yearbook pictures together. We never hung out. So I'm trying to find any pictures where he and I are at all in the same kind of space. And I finally found a group picture from when we were sophomores. Now this is back in the day when it was not freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. In Boulder High, you started high school as a sophomore.
Right.
We went to junior high, and then
that was back in the day when junior high was 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Right. Exactly. So you basically started high school at the end of junior high. So it was our first year at high school. So it was sophomore year. There was a production of Romeo and Juliet, and it was awesome. And I was one of the chorus members, and he played Tybalt. And so there was a picture. Yeah, no, he was awesome too. I remember thinking it was really funny. My best friend and I remember listening and going, so drawn among the lines,
Right.
I hate the words. I hate hell, all and we're like, where did he get that voice? This, we're all 15 and 16 years old. We're sophomores in high school. We're fucking so young. We're like, where did he get that voice? And I remember my friend going, woof. But anyway, so there's this picture, Romeo and Juliet, and it's it's Tybalt versus Mercutio.
Uh-huh.
So it's two buddies of ours playing Tybalt and Mercutio. It's my partner playing Tybalt, good friend of ours playing Mercutio, and they're like brandishing knives at each other. There's like three of the Capulets on this one side and three of the Montagues on the other side. And in that picture, there's a bunch of the chorus guys who are the toughs. There's Benvolio, but the rest of them aren't really named. It's just a bunch of chorus fighters. And there's three guys on one side, on Mercutio's side, trying to hold it back, don't fight. And there's three sort of toughs on the Montague side pulling. Oh no, it's the other way around. Anyway,
right.
Juliet's the Capulet. Anyway, you get the idea. So there's three on each side trying to pull the fighters back. And I am the only girl in the entire picture. And it's this whole picture. And it's depicting this great fight scene. Everyone's like ridiculously young. Everyone's got baby faces. They're trying to look tough. But it's a fight scene, and I am the only girl, and I'm dressed like a guy. I've got a blazer on. I've got a cap on. I'm totally one of the guys. I am just a tough guy. And this is the only picture I can find from any of the 3 years of high school,
right,
where I'm in any proximity to my partner. I'm holding his arm in this very staged way to pull him back. And it's this fantastic picture. But I just found it because I was delighted. I'm like, oh, yeah, there's finally a high school picture where we're close together. And I'm like, holy shit, look at this.
It's number 6.
Is totally an epitome of this entire thing. And this is the story of my life. And that was, sophomore year in high school. So by the time I described the band of young men, that was about a decade later. So we're about 15, 16 in high school. And then I was about 25 in the band of young men. So anyway, I just thought it was interesting. So anyway, summary. I don't know if that's...
That kind of gets to one of the guys. It's the female character who must dress up as a man to do things normally assumed to be manly things, and the problem that you've outlined with that is that this forces her to discount or throw off her femininity.
Right. In order to be, and what the signal is, and what the damaging part of this trope is all about, is that it's this underlying idea of the trope, which is that women actually can't be badass. So with this trope in particular, the more badass a woman is, the less feminine she has to be.
Right.
The badassness, in other words, and the femininity is a sort of reciprocal kind of thing. So I bring up a couple things. I bring up my own experience with the sword fighter guys, and I also bring up the character Vasquez in Aliens as well. And I talk about Mulan too, and also about Eowyn, like the whole trope of the you have to dress up as a man in order to go to war because you're not allowed to fight because you're a woman, and that's a cultural and a time period thing.
Right.
Sometimes both. I mean, it's cool, and I like that. I love there's a story about these two female pirates that had to dress up as men in order to be able to join the pirates. And actually, the cool thing about that story, it's Mary Read and Anne Bonny. The cool thing about that is they both did a thing. They all got captured because the guys weren't fighting; they were downstairs playing. They're down in the in the hold playing cards, and the women were up guarding. And they're like, "Hey guys, the Navy's coming. Could you come help us?" So they're like, "Whatever." So they got captured because they wouldn't fight, and the women only fought. But they actually all went to prison. But the women were like, "Hey, we're pregnant, so how about not hanging us?" And the jury was like, "Oh shit, well we can't hang them because they're pregnant." So they live because they plead their bellies, which I think is kind of a neat sort of way out. But anyway, so that's the kind of thing. It's like that's what the trope does, is it gives you the signal that, hey, the more badass you are, the less woman you have to be.
And that kind of, I think, leads to the one problem example that I have with the trope. And you kind of get to what to the problem that I have in your essay, but I don't think you quite. Again, I think it's one of those situations where when you expand this essay, you need to really consider that that boundary where fiction comments on and relates and connects to reality.
Okay.
And part of that is because Éowyn you list as sort of belonging to this trope, but I think she's kind of the escape hatch. She's the undermining aspect of this trope because she's a woman within the world of the story. She is a woman who is told, oh, you can't do this war thing because you're a woman. You got to stay back here. And so, yes, she dresses up as a man to go out and do the fighting.
Mm-hmm.
But as you point out in the essay, it's important that she does this because, the Witch King?
Yep.
Cannot be killed by any, man born of woman.
Very, very
right.
By any man.
By any man. And
very Macbeth. It is very Macbeth.
right. Well, so within the isolated cosmos of the story.
But there are also arguments that say that the Hobbit, who was also behind the Witch King, was kind of the one that dealt the death stroke. That the Hobbit not being a man, because, in the Tolkien world, there's man with a capital M, and there's dwarves, and there's elves, and there's the Astari, or the wizards. So, it can be argued that it was the Hobbit, not a man, that killed him.
Right.
I've seen this argument being put forth.
I've seen that argument, but that's like saying that it's a nitpicky, protect my testicles thing.
And it's also kind of like it also kind of doesn't matter. I mean, the fact that there's a woman and a Hobbit both get him from front and back is perfect for him to die. That's totally fine to me.
But
okay, how do you say that she undermines the trope though? Because they have that rule in this world that the Witch King cannot be killed by a man, and Éowyn has this warrior training, and the society within it says you can't do it because you're a woman, and so she dresses up like a man to go out and do the fighting. But you see, the thing is that unlike these other characters, Mulan, where their femininity is erased and not essential, is made inessential to their badassery. Éowyn's case, her womanness is essential to her badassness. Because in order to take down the Witch King, she both has to be able to fight him and not be crushed and to not be a man.
Her womanness is essential to her ability to be a badass and take down the Witch King. Whereas Mulan's femininity, her womanness, is not essential to what she's doing, which is taking her father's place. Only thing that the womanness does for her is it makes her have to hide it.
Right.
So I think that Éowyn's character is actually a comment on an argument against one of the guys trope, because even though she has to dress up like the guy to get past the cultural window, it's essential that she retain her womanness.
I see that, but I see that the fact that she has to pretend like she's a boy, it is totally with the trope. Just the fact that she has to do that. And actually, to be honest, they actually don't. I mean, part of it is that, her response to her father and Aragorn both going, okay, so honey, go ahead and stay here.
Right.
And she's like, oh, you're just telling me that because I'm a woman. But then once you guys are all dead in battle, I have leave to be burned in the house because you'll no longer need it. This is beautiful speech. But they actually don't literally, if you look at what they say to her as to why she needs to stay behind, it's not that she's a woman, actually. I mean, it's implied that it is, but it's more like, you're strong. You are the princess, basically, as far as this sort of Viking-ish society goes. You're the next higher ranking human here. Everyone loves you. Everyone will follow you. You are strong enough to lead everyone. And then actually what her father says to her is, let you be as lord to the Eorlingas while we're gone. She gets pissed off. She's like, oh, fine, fuck you. Go ahead and go fight because you're men. But that's actually not really why they do that. And the fact that she gives up this duty to protect her people to go fight as a boy in the war is actually pretty irresponsible in my mind. But I mean, I'm glad she does it, obviously. Otherwise, the Witch King. Well, I don't know. Maybe the Hobbit would do it. It's Pippin, right? That is behind the Witch King.
Yeah, I don't think the Hobbit could have done
it.
it by himself.
Yeah, I don't know. He got kind of like strong for the end juice that he drank and stuff. But you know what I mean? Like that Aowen's complicated. I will totally agree with that. But I also right in that she has to be a woman in order to be the particular badass that she needs to be. And that is absolutely true. She can't be a weakling. She can't not know how to fight. She calls herself a shield maiden. Like, she has to be trained. She has to know what the fuck she's doing. But she also can't be a man. There's no way she can be a man and defeat this thing. So yes, I completely concede that. But I also don't think that undermines the trope. Just the fact that she has to pretend to be someone else. If she could ride out into battle as Éowyn, shield maiden, hi, I'm a shield maiden. She says this. I'm a shield maiden. I don't fear death. I've been trained in shield and blade. I can do this, you guys. Why are you leaving me behind? So that to me is what keeps it in the trope, is that just the fact that she has to pretend to be a boy at all. The fact that she can't ride into battle as Éowyn by her father's side.
But why? Why?
Why? Because it's, like you said, it's a cultural thing. The men are riding into battle and the women are staying behind.
So then would you say that Tolkien was using the trope without thought, or using the trope to comment upon the condition of women?
I think that Tolkien was writing from the perspective of reading all kinds of amazing Viking sagas, from reading Finnish folklore, and from being a amazing linguist and scholar of Old English, which means that he read all the troubadour shit, all the romances, all that stuff. And so he's drawing from that tradition specifically. That's what I think. I think that him
and does that tradition not have
that him having the Macbeth moment with Éowyn, not being I was from my mother's womb untimely ripped, but being I am no man.
I am no man.
That's pretty progressive for the time that he was writing this, but he's also writing it directly from specifically Viking sagas, but also from the troubadour tradition, which is where he has that's the whole Arlensinder thing. It's this long standing tradition about that. So the fact that she has to dress up means that in that culture she's not allowed to fight, and also in that culture it's very Viking-like. The Rohirrim are very Viking-like, so she would have been trained. But because of all the troubadour, the English troubadour kind of, and the Arthurian kind of stuff,
right? That's
also influencing it. She can't be a knight.
But would not being that particular tribe and Éowyn being, borrowed from this Viking tradition, could not she have been a warrior?
She should have been.
There's historical evidence now that a number of very famous Viking warriors were women.
Yeah, no, totally. And that's my point. She should have been. There's absolutely no reason from this kind of Viking culture perspective that she shouldn't have been able to ride out by her father's side as Éowyn, shield maiden, daughter of the king. Like, there's no reason why that shouldn't have been okay. So that's why I call it part of the trope, because there is still sort of oppressive thing. And I don't know. I think that's why I said about the whole knighthood thing, the whole Arthurian thing, is that Tolkien didn't take the Viking thing completely all the way.
Right.
He also added this, oh, you're a woman, you have to stay home. Even though they don't particularly say that, but that's what she says. But that's really the center of my Éowyn argument, is the whole reason she has to dress up as a boy and pretend she's someone she is not. That, to me, is the center of it.
Right. But then you then have that bit where the Witch King can only be defeated by a woman. And so she has to be there.
By not a man.
By a not
man. That could be anything in that world.
Woman,
that could be an elf.
Man.
No, that could be an elf. That could be a dwarf. That could be a hobbit. That could be a... Do you know what I'm saying? It's good that she's out there. It's good that she chose to do that because that was essential that she did that. But it is still a trope because she had to pretend to be someone else in order to even be allowed to go. They would have made her stay home if she had not dressed up as a man.
They would.
And that's exactly what happened. They're like, stay behind, be as Lord to the Loringus.
Right.
Help the people, go up in the mountain, go hide. And she's like, and the only way she can not go up into the mountain and hide with the scared old people, children, and women, the people who aren't allowed to fight, in other words, is to dress up as a man. That is the only choice she has if she wants to go fight. She can't be like, hey, she can't make an argument. And she does. She makes an argument like, you're just... And she can't. The argument doesn't work. So she has to dress up as a guy. So that's the thing. You have to not be a man. You have to not be a woman in order to be able to be a fighter, to be a badass. And then, of course, and it's like, oh, shit. Oh, good thing you decided to do that. Oh, hey.
But
we didn't realize all that magic and stuff. Like, we didn't know about the Witch King. Good thing you decided to
Didn't they?
to do
wouldn't
that.
they have known about the Witch King, though?
No, Why would they?
They seem to know a lot about the ring wraiths who he is part of.
Nah, all they know is that they're men. They used to be men, and they all had rings, and they all got fucked up because of the ring. That's all they know. They know they're slaves to Sauron, and that's what they know. They don't know it's only good when the Witch King says it out loud. It's like, ha ha, hey, sausage cart. Hey, hot dog cart. I don't give a shit about you guys because I won't be killed by a man. And then the Hobbit, who is really small, and this is one of the things I'm talking about in my new series, the problematic masculinity tropes. The small male is one of the people that can defeat him, and the other person that can defeat him is the woman. Now, the difference is there too. Remember this, is that the Hobbit, though not a man, is small. He's small. He's a halfling. He's a hobbit.
Right.
But he is also a squire. Like, he's honored, and he's allowed to ride openly as himself. Why? Because he's male. He's a male hobbit. He's allowed to come join the army. But they were still going to
leave him behind.
No, they weren't going to leave him behind. He was a part of the whole thing from the beginning. Oh, you mean from Elrond's council?
No, from the... He would not... When we had the argument about who ended up killing the Witch King...
Well, I don't know. I think they both did, but whatever.
Whether they both did or not, that the Hobbit would not have been there if Éowyn hadn't picked him up on her horse when they rode into battle.
Right, but he was allowed to be there. Like, he didn't have to dress up as something.
But they were still going to leave him behind.
Here's the Hobbit.
Right, but they were going to leave him behind because he was, a giant-footed midget.
Wow, that was very un-PC. I just called him small.
Sorry.
So what's our goofy title for this? Giant-footed midget. Or is it Sweet Pussy?
I haven't come up with one yet. Maybe we'll get to something later. I don't know.
You know us, we talk. But do you know what I'm saying? Like, yes, they would have left him behind, but they didn't, and so he was fine. But she had to become something else. She had to become a man in order to be there.
She had to, yeah. I agree with that part, but I think still that there's a bit of a commentary to be read into that story by the fact that it was necessary for her to be a woman.
Yes, it was. Well, it was necessary for her to be there. Yes, absolutely.
Because, like I said, when you get with the Mulan character or the Vasquez character in Aliens, the only reason they are women is because it's.
There's kind of no reason, is there?
Yeah, there's really kind of no reason. I mean, the only reason you have Vasquez as a woman is to give the joke.
And there's all kinds of jokes. Yeah, there's the main joke, right? And let's not even talk about her brown face thing either. she's portrayed as a Latina and she's not. The actress is white. So anyway, but we won't go into that.
Really?
That's a whole nother like.
The actress
series.
was. I thought she. Who's the actress?
I forget her name. I remember. I might be wrong. Like, tell me if I'm wrong. But
That's what I'm going to do.
I IMDb her, and I think that I remember she was a white actress, and they brown faced her. But I think I got mainly my information about that from Everything Wrong with the Cinema Sins series. Have you seen this?
No.
Of course, I follow other people who are commenting on Tropes like a lot, just because I want to see what other people are saying, both scholarly and pop people who are doing
right.
huge stuff. And TV Tropes is great, but so I do watch lots of the Cinema Sins series, and that's kind of where I got that from. They're like, oh, and you're supposed to be Latina, but okay.
Well, technically, she is. I mean, she is Jewish from Russia, Morocco, and Brazil. So technically she's South American, although Brazil is more Portuguese than. So she's. No, she's Latin-ish.
Okay. All right. So why did I hear that she was brown? Well, she was probably brown,
probably because she's Jewish Russian, as well as Moroccan and Brazilian.
And they maybe had to darken her for the role. Had to. Listen to me. They didn't have to fucking darken her. If indeed they did.
Anyway,
okay, I don't know. That was
she
just
is now
I
the
heard.
proprietor of the store Jeanette Bras, a large cup bra specialist known for its slogan,
hey.
The alphabet starts at D.
Whoa. Damn.
Oh, yeah. People do stuff. She's been in a whole bunch of stuff.
That's cool. Good
In
for her.
2014, she was in the movie Under the Hollywood Sign.
I've never heard of that movie.
She was in Clock Stoppers.
So is she still
She was
active?
in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas in 98.
Oh, this is the 90s. Okay.
She played a science officer in Star Trek Generations.
Oh, God, it's been so long.
She was in Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And she was in Lethal Weapon 2.
Oh.
And she was in the
two.
Presidio.
Oh.
And she was in Miracle Mile. Just bit parts in that one.
Well, she's a worker. Although now she's doing boob slings, huh?
Yeah, boob slings.
That's
I
cool.
guess.
Well, that's cool.
Jeanette Goldstein. That's at least what the Wikipedia page says here.
Well, maybe I'm wrong, but I did hear that. But anyway. But yes, more to the point. You're right in that Mulan and Vasquez don't really have any reason to be female, except it makes for really fun sexual tension and makes for jokes.
Vasquez is real clear in your mind right now, right? I mean, your image of her.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the whole like pull-ups thing, and I can't see that.
Oh, well, that sucks.
It's just a big, bright blob.
I will have to send it to you.
You can just send it to me. But yeah, I think that's really the hinge point, which is why, like I said, I'd like to find positive or non-examples of these tropes.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, even if it's like Ripley with the Mother Knows Best, like there's a lot of positive reasons why she is doing all of that stuff. And there are character reasons why she's been written to be a Mother Knows Best, but it is still that trope. It still is. It's a better one than, say, Beatrix Kiddo version of it.
Right.
But it's like in the Marion Effect, even in the very first one, like Marion Ravenwood is kind of cool still, even when she becomes a damsel in distress. But it is still an example of that trope. I would say that Eowyn, she's a much better example. Like it's much better than any of the other ones that I come up with, but it is still an example of it. And like you said, there is a little commentary at the end. It's like, hey, can we think about this maybe and let women fight? Because there's some reasons why they can and why they should maybe. So, I mean, yeah, but it is still an example of it. It's just not, it's not a horrible example of it. It's just, Well, there it is again. She has to dress up as a man in order to go fight. She has to. There's no other choice for her. So that's kind of the center of that, I think. But I don't know. We can talk about Tolkien's treatment of women all day.
Is it generally bad or generally good?
It's generally just not even. It's just he's writing from such a tradition of, like I said, the Eddas and the sagas of old and the troubadour stuff and the Arthurian saga, which is just, there's just no kind of role for women particularly. And the fact that he threw this Macbeth fucking bit in Two Towers is that Return of the King? No, it's Two Towers. No, it's Return of the King where she kills the Witch King. Or is it Two Towers? It's all one book to me. It's Lord of the
Return
Rings.
of the King. It's in the final battle with the, at least as far as the movies go. I'd never read the books.
Oh, for fuck's. Oh, no, of course. No, you know what? If you're new to fantasy, you should definitely not start with those books.
I am not new to fantasy. I understand you think I don't read it, but I was a kid once.
Oh, thank you for totally denigrating my entire genre. Fantasy is for kids. Okay,
we've been having this same argument. We've been having this same argument for 20 years.
Is this happening now again? Fantasy is for kids. Fantasy is not as well written. Fantasy is
we know where we stand on this.
I was a kid once. Are you fucking serious right now?
Well, that's when I went through my fantasy phase. Some people never grow out of it. But that's
Oh my god. You're such an ass. Oh my god. Okay, everyone listening to this, please write in with many, many messages of vitriol for Jason Quinn Malott right now. For that phrase, some people never grow out of it. Holy fucking shit. Okay. I can't even go on with that. I'm going to be a white girl and be like, I can't even.
I can't even. Well,
but anyway.
You and I have had this argument for about 20 years now.
We're not getting into this. This is not the podcast for this argument. We had this argument in a different podcast on Outrider, no less.
But most of these tropes do appear in genre fiction. Why is that?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about adding more, I don't know. I wanted to restrict it to 7 because 7's a lucky number. But then I kept thinking about other examples of different tropes that happens over and over again in the insidious way of them. And I'm wondering if maybe there are different versions of it. Like right now I'm starting on the masculinity ones, and I have the first one published just recently on Writers HQ.
I just saw that.
The second one's
Go Big or Go Home.
Go Big or Go Home. And but this is a classic trope that happens in non-genre fiction all the time. It happens in literary fiction, kind of consistently, kind of a lot, and kind of nowhere else. Which is the professor, usually of literature or something, that has the lithe young female student inexplicably fall in love with him, and they have a torrid affair, and whatever else happens.
Well, that's the English professor's fantasy fiction.
Right.
And again, it's an immature form.
Yeah.
For immature people.
Yes. But that doesn't happen in genre. I was trying to think of a trope that happens in genres other than geek culture type things. And that's the one that really pops out at me that happens so many times. We were talking about what makes a trope. I would say that a trope is something that is A, insidious, B, damaging in some way, and C, I think most essentially, it happens over and 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 over again. So often that it's just ingrained. We don't even notice it anymore. Like the woo her until she says yes. If she says no, you're just not trying hard enough. That trope. All that happens so often that it's just kind of expected now. and or not expected, but like not even noticed.
Right.
As a thing. So I don't know. So these 7 are just ones that I came up with that I see a lot. But I think there are more, and I don't know if maybe I should come up with like a couples trope series, like, like that doesn't, that's not only one or the other of the binary genders, but that has to do with like relationships. Maybe I should do another 7 after I'm done with the 7 masculine ones, being like 7 couples or 7 relationship tropes.
Right. Yeah, maybe. So back to just one of the guys. Did you see or have you watched the movie Just One of the Guys?
Which no, I didn't get to.
Is a non fantasy version of the trope.
And it's 12th Night, right?
Yes.
We decided. It's a contemporary 12th Night. Right,
where she's the high school journalist who is, trying to get a summer internship before college, which she thinks will make her career. And her journalism advisor at her high school won't take her seriously because she's a girl. And so she decides to pose as a boy at a different high school in order to write the kind of stories she wants to write so that she can get this scholarship.
Get published, yeah.
And ends up making friends with this kind of outcast guy who's into James Brown. I really like this movie. It's a whole lot of fun. But
I should watch it, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And
where's it available? Where can I watch it?
I don't know that it's on Netflix right now, but you might be able to grab a cheap rental on iTunes or something like that.
Oh, okay. Or Amazon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So she ends up falling for this guy. And of course the climactic scene is she's going to prom with the guy dressed as a guy. They're on double dates, each with a girl. And the ex-boyfriend of the girl in drag, who's a college student, shows up for some reason at the prom, tracks her down.
Why?
Well, she's breaking up with him, and won't have it because he's the possessive whatever guy. And he shows up at the prom and confronts her while she's in drag, and it has basically pulls off the mask, and everybody's a little bit freaking out, and she ends up pulling aside the guy that she has the crush on and kisses him. And he's like, wait, I'm not that way. I don't like guys. And there's this great scene where she like rips open her shirt. She's not bound. She's been in man drag the whole time, and she's supposed to be appearing to be a man. But when she rips open her shirt, she hasn't been bound. She has fairly substantial and quite nice breasts, and like wash. And you're like, this is why I generally have a problem with anything that you could label fantasy. So Just One of the Guys. It's pretty good, but it's a straight up,
Shakespeare
non-genre, Shakespeare interpretation of, this particular trope without descending into a
well, Mulan isn't either. Mulan's historical fiction.
Right.
I mean, the Disney movie is like there's a talking dragon and shit, but
right.
But like the actual story is she's a figure from history.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So tell me some more about your adventures in the man realm.
Well, it's interesting because I didn't and the more I go into these articles, the more I like discover more about my own experience. And that's why I'm writing these in particular. But when I was writing this one, I wanted to use my experience at Ren Fair with the Band of Young Men. And
right.
Band of Young Men is an old motif, not a trope, but a folklore motif. Specifically, it pops up in Native American, in particular, and Native like South American stories as well. But it's this like roving band of young men. Of course, it's all like talking about puberty and talking about how boys become men and about the pain you have to go through in order to become a man, like the rituals that you have to undergo in order to become a man. And so like, these roving bands of young men, they're often werewolves in these stories, or they're like you're in danger if you run into these kids, and it's all stories about coming of age as a man, basically. Right. And it was something that I was talking, because of course I run this by a lot of the most well-read, like, intelligent people that I know when I'm writing them. And it was something that I was talking with my partner a lot about. And I was like writing a lot more about my own personal experience. Like I have cut down a lot. I cut it down a lot for this article, but I was like, and there was something he said, he just turned to me, he's like, you came of age as a man. You went through the entire boy into man ritual. Like, and they didn't give you a different version for being a girl. It was, you were literally, and he told me this, like, it didn't start with them, obviously. Like, I'm talking about this picture that I found of Romeo and Juliet. Like, I've been kind of like this my entire life. But in that particular like time with sword fighting with these guys, the band of young men, I was actually like taken aside by the director and choreographer of the whole band. He was the leader of the band of young men, and we were divided in two. And I was a part of the actual band of young men, the like kind of the wicked rovers of the whole theatrical thing. He took me aside. He's like, the reason I have cast you in this role is because you are the only one who can do this. You are the one who can hang out with us, who can be one of us, because you're one of us. And the two dudes that I hung out with the most, the two like primary band of young men, it was the three of us that were the main, like the alphas, I guess. But the two of them would have this like sexual contest throughout the summer where they would like compete as far as how many women they could like bed throughout the entire summer. There was this competition. They're like, Zuko, you need to join us. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? At the time, I didn't realize my bi-ness very much at all. Like it was kind of like this kind of nagging thought, but I had no idea really. I was very, very late bloomer. So I was like, I can't compete with you guys. Like there's so many fewer pretty guys out here than pretty women. And at the time I wasn't going to go for pretty women. So I was like, come on, I can't compete with you. But they were like, come on, you got to compete with us. And it was just like, I went through the entire, like all of the rituals, all of the drinking, all of the cigars, all of the, like, obviously we were very extraordinarily physical during that summer. It was like a really hard work. We did 9 sword fights every day. We got 10 minutes to prepare before the sword fight. We got 10 minutes after to cool off because it's really fucking hot up in Larkspur, Colorado. Yep. In the summer. Can be. So, and after that, we would just walk around as our characters and, sing Irish drinking songs and stuff like that. So, and then afterwards I learned how to drink in college really, but like I was drinking with them. They were sort of trying to include me in their sexual stuff. And it was like, I was like, just realizing that having written about this and someone other than me having read it, going, you actually went through the entire male coming of age thing. Right. Like you came of age as a man. And I'm like, holy shit, you're right. Like, and just writing it, I'm realizing, oh my God. And I'm just noticing, because there was one point when I was, 2 points. One, there was this cute girl walking by. She had these amazing little stockings on. And I was walking there with the sort of alpha male, the alpha wolf of the pack. We were walking by and we both looked at her. We both watched her walk by and he goes, wow, nice stockings. And then I commented in Shakespeare, and the domains that their adjacent lie. He was like, oh my God, that's the best thing ever. So, but then later, of course, these two guys are having, like, with the three of us were the main guys, right? So the two of them were having this whole sexual contest. And they were comparing notes and stuff. And so the alpha, his jilted chicks, like bedded and then jilted, started to come to me. It was towards the end of the summer. They started to come to me and start to like make friends with me and start to like buddy up with me and like be chummy. And I was like, what are you doing? So I turned to him and I'm like, why are all of your girls like coming up to me and trying to be friends and make nice? He's like, well, it's because, and he turned to me, he said, it's because you're one of the guys. But you have tits, so you're safe. Right. And I was like, that's exactly what's going on right now. And then, so then rewriting this, like writing my experience down in clear words made me really realize that, yes, I did not come of age as a woman. I came of age. I did the whole male ritual of growing up. And I did that. So I came of age as a man, although I'm a woman. But I'm very like it's kind of a running joke amongst those close to me. Like, wow, you're really a terrible girl, aren't you? It's like, well, yeah. But I've always been like that too. So it's not like they started it, but
you've only been terrible girl by Western traditional patriarchal gender standards. I mean, that's the thing.
Yes, exactly. Well, exactly. And that's what this trope is about too. It's like, well, what does it mean to be feminine? Like, come on. So, there's that too. And I didn't write this article with any like talk about trans women because I don't feel like it's right for me to like give myself that voice. I think that trans writers need to be writing about that. Right. Like if I have any trans women readers out there who read this article and like have something to say, I would really love to hear that. And trans male too, like any trans, I would like to have them write about that experience either way, just because I don't feel like the whole thing about becoming the other binary gender in order to be badass. That's what I'm trying to pinpoint as far as the problematic aspect of it. And I don't want it to be a parallel to, hey, trans is shitty. It's not that. It's just that this forcing a person to be something that they're not is not cool. Right. And that's what the trope does. Anyway, I want to put that out there. Like any trans readers, please write other articles in your own voice because I cannot represent you. I have no way of doing that. But just my own discovery of having gone through like my whole coming of age rituals in a masculine world has been really interesting. And now as a woman in her 40s, I'm doing burlesque. And I'm like, I'm wearing lots of stockings all the time, and I'm wearing high heels all the time. And one of the things that my ex said to me before we separated was like, why are you wearing all this sexy shit now? Where was all this before? He was almost like offended, like, what the hell is going on? I'm like, I don't know.
You've decided to explore the feminine power dynamic, I guess. Because I was so enmeshed. And then after the Ren Fair experience, I got into the martial arts, which is a huge dude, bro. Right. Like we called a lot of the martial arts schools we would go explore the Macho Bozo Dojo. That's like that's a martial arts trope is what that is. It's like, it's a super boy school. It's very macho. Stage combat and stunt world still is too. Right. So, right. I mean, like, now I'm in burlesque and it's incredibly feminine. Like it's a real female centered kind of art. And so it's very interesting to me to be coming from a place where I literally came of age as a man, even though I'm a woman. And I was always cis female. I never I kind of dressed a little bit androgynously, but I never really I never actually went trans. I never felt like anything but a woman. I was always ostensibly female. Right. And I've always been sort of projecting like that. I don't know if I'm using really bad terms. I'm sorry about any trans folks out there who are listening. I don't know really. I'm old. I don't know what to say to be correct. But anyway, so coming from that very masculine centered world, and then now in my advanced age being in burlesque, it's really fucking interesting. Yeah. And I'm learning a lot about myself as a woman and as the whole masculine world too. Like, what was it like? I wasn't a woman in the man's world. I was one of the guys. It really was that
So just really, really weird. I'll probably write a lot more about that when I make this into a book. In other words, I have a lot more to say because I'm discovering more and more every day.
Do you have one of the girls tropes? Is there such one of the girls? Is there that out there?
You know what? I don't know, but when I get to the sassy gay friend trope in the masculine tropes, I think I might start to kind of. I probably will have an aspect of that there. I can see that there's this sort of girlfriend kind of aspect of that particular trope, and I haven't detailed any of the one I haven't written yet.
Right.
But I bet I will find a lot of that in that one.
And I bring that up because I kind of had a sort of opposite experience to yours. I seem to have always had more female friends than male friends. Now, of course, prior to puberty and before college, just because of that situation, there was probably more of a balance as far as who I spent my time with. Just because, when you're in grade school and high school, there's still a lot of really heavy gender coding going on.
Yeah, right.
Especially back in the era when I was there. I was
going to say, 80s. Yeah, especially our age. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we didn't really have. I mean,
even though girls' sports were starting to be a big thing in the 80s and 90s, still, if you were a guy into sports, you were hanging out with guys. There wasn't an opportunity to be athletic in the presence of women, except
you were a
to
cheerleader.
Show off.
Girls were cheerleaders, right? And guys were the athletes.
Right. And then, but once that kind of, grade school, high school caste system, of who fit in where. And I've started to break down in high school because I did the theater thing, which at my high school automatically made you gay or suspect. And
that's a saving grace, though. Theater really, that fucking saves the lives of a lot of humans. I will totally say that because theater accepts everyone.
True.
It's the island of misfit toys.
Right. But even back in grade school, I was always that boy that girls would go and talk to about the boys they had crushes on. Right. And then in high school, I was still that guy. I was still the guy that girls would go to talk to a guy about, the guy I like, is such an asshole. And you would have to explain guys to them. And then
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you have because you have this parallel yet opposite experience that you're describing? Was it really fucking hard to get laid?
It was hard to get a girlfriend. It was humiliating to have the fact that you had a crush on somebody be exposed because nobody thought of you that way. And so if you did have a crush on a girl, it was like, oh my God, woo, he's got a crush on a girl. Let's go tease him about it. Fuck you, right?
Well, that's what girls do it to each other too. Okay, so I could not get laid to save my life.
There were a couple girls that I ended up having a relationship with in high school, but it never lasted very long. And there were
it was possible for you, but it just kind of was a big stressor, probably.
Well, it happened. But the majority of this stuff was just me having a crush on a girl and not anything happening about it because, there was nobody for me to talk to about that kind of stuff.
Right, exactly.
And of course, on top of the theater thing, I was on the girls' volleyball team.
You were on the girls' volleyball team?
My sophomore year. Yes, I did. I went and I tried out for the girls' volleyball team and I made the JV squad.
Wait, what? Why? How does that?
What, in 20 years I've never told you that story before?
No.
And all the times we've been drinking, I never told you I was on the girls' volleyball team in high
No.
school.
I'm amazed and delighted by this news. This is fantastic.
Yes,
Wait,
I literally was one of the
that?
girls. What? How did they?
How did they justify putting a guy on the girls' volleyball team? It's just whatever. It's like the girls who are kickers for the boys' ball teams now.
You have to. There was not a there was not a boys interscholastic volleyball team, and I wanted to play volleyball.
Oh, I see.
Right.
Oh, so you couldn't have auditioned for the boys' team,
right?
Oh.
Yeah, in fact, in Kansas in the 80s,
but you liked volleyball.
In Kansas in the 80s, volleyball was a girls' sport.
Jesus Christ!
Right?
The fuck.
And
thank you for those air quotes. That's so ridiculous.
Despite the fact that volleyball,
really
men's volleyball was an Olympic sport in Kansas, if you wanted to play volleyball competitive, then you had to have a vagina.
Apparently not, since you got
apparently
into
not.
You have a vagina and you haven't been telling me.
Right. No, I have a mangina.
The secret vagina.
So
that's the phrase for this episode. The secret vagina.
The
secret vagina.
It's one of the manginas. Secret vagina. Anyway. So I was on the girls' volleyball team.
Wow.
And at the same time, that was when I tried out for the first play. So in one semester, the first semester of my sophomore year, I was in my first play, and I was on the girls' volleyball team.
Holy shit.
So mid 1980s Kansas high school, they all were sure that I was gay.
You had to be, right?
Right, and it was like, yeah, I'm going on a multi-hour bus ride in the dark with your girlfriends, and you're rolling around on the floor with another guy. Who's the one with some latency issues?
Sorry, but
I don't think so.
Yeah. You ever seen that video? It came out right before the gay marriage law went into effect. It was a sort of an ad for that. It was an ad for supporting it. It was all these gay guys who are like, support gay marriage or we'll marry your girlfriends. We like going to the gym. We like having pink hair after as a treat. What? What's your problem with this? We're always amazingly ripped. We always dress really well.
Right.
What are you doing with your cargo shorts and it's so great. They're like, oh, you think we don't know you think the sex thing has you covered? No. She tells us everything that she likes, and she tells us all of your feelings, and she kisses us when she's drunk because she thinks it's funny. So support gay marriage or we will marry the fuck out of your girlfriends. Right. You'll be left high and dry. Oh, and that kind of threesome she wants, we're cool with that. It's just this lovely little, very celebratory kind of thing.
Yep.
Oh, that's interesting. So we came from different sides of the swing of the pendulum.
And you were wondering, you thought it was a mystery why we got along so well.
Yeah, no shit. You're like, oh my God, you're one of the guys. I'm like, you're one of the girls. Let's drink pitchers of beer.
Let's drink lots of beer.
Kill our poor friend Kevin.
Right.
Kill anybody who tried to keep up with us.
So there you are. One of the secret vaginas.
Well, that's fascinating. I think we both should write about this. I think we both should write.
I've written about
articles. We should write robust articles about our experience coming of age through the opposite binary gender.
Yeah.
Because you've always been basically cis male, right? Like you've never really been super androgynous as far as your gender, right?
Well, I mean, it's when you're a cis male and you tend to go through life having your sexuality either questioned or dismissed.
Oh,
right?
Wow.
So, all of these girls that would come and talk to me about their boys, and then, and then tell me shit like, they would talk about how all men were horrible. And I would say,
like, thanks,
but I'm a guy. Oh, well, you're not like the other ones. What do you mean I'm not like the others? I don't know. You're just different.
You mean I'm not an asshole?
And then, of course, having my sexuality misidentified by insecure guys. He's gay. We don't really see you as a sexual thing, right? You tend to...
Right.
So physically, I present as very cisgendered male. But
you got a lovely beard.
Either having... Oh, I know. Thank you.
It's a good villain beard.
Why
now that it's getting gray, it's a super villain beard.
I want to shave it off, but I'm reluctant to. So anyway,
just leave the mustache.
No, the mustache by itself is not that great.
Really? I see a dark stripe down the sides. I think you could do a total like.
Oh, the handlebar like
you could
bikers.
do a cowboy, like a cowboy handlebar.
Oh, no,
fantastic.
There's some pictures. I'll have to send them to you. I look awful.
Okay. Okay.
So.
You do. It's your face. You do what you want.
Hey, having it either dismissed or misconstrued tends to repress it after a certain time.
Sure. Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yeah.
Because.
Totally. Yep. Oh, I know. Yeah.
You and I both know this from other ends of the spectrum. That's why I think.
Yep.
This particular trope, one of the guys could very easily have a masculine counterpart. But
Absolutely.
where is that represented in the media when it's not, oh, he really is gay, right?
Yeah, well, exactly, right.
Maybe Ducky is probably the only one.
I was about to say Ducky, but it's heavily implied that he is gay, though, isn't it?
No, but at the end of the movie, he wanders off with the girl.
Yeah, I know, because it was the 80s.
Right. So, yeah,
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Do you remember that Under the Gay Umbrella panel from our first year at Naropa?
Vaguely.
Right? Well, that was my whole thing. Deb, Sika was the one who got me, who convinced me I should do that panel. Under the assumption, the militant lesbian, that I was at least bi. She wanted me to do this panel. And then she hated me after the panel because my thing was...
She realized you were straight.
Was, our gender binary has often left me feeling like I don't fit in, even though, my primary, sexual interest and fantasies has always been women. My go-to sexual fantasy always involves a woman. I'm straight.
Yeah. Well, so you're straight. Right? Yeah.
But, because I don't act like a lot of straight guys.
Right. And me too. And I don't like the movies that chicks like. I don't like all this stuff but that's, and how much is that is just stereotypes, and how many actual humans actually are like that? I know a few, but that doesn't mean that that's the truth of most human beings. But I don't know. That's fascinating. And I've been having lots of interesting talks too, intellectually with my partner, who's been reading a lot of Foucault, and talking about the interesting difference between when you and I were coming of age and the notion of legitimizing sexuality, and the more sweeping non-binary is actually a thing now, right? And the history of legitimizing sexuality, being gay is a scientific thing, and it's not something I choose, and therefore it's legit, right? But then there's all kinds of other questions under that. It's well, you're proving that it's not your fault, therefore that's implying a fault, right? And I don't know. It's been this fascinating thing, and we've been talking a lot about like you're saying, you're not androgynous, you've never wanted to sort of cross dress or your gender was never in question for you necessarily, or you never were fluid as far as your gender goes. Me too.
The only time that my sexuality was in question was when I was young and didn't know myself, and everybody around me was saying, "You're gay." And I was like, Am I?
Right,
Maybe.
exactly.
I don't know. I don't feel gay, right?
Right.
When you're at that age where you don't trust what's in you, and what everybody points at is what you try to become. And it's like, but that doesn't feel right.
Right. And so it's a nature versus nurture thing too, for sure. Right. But then it's like, how about every choice you make sexually is your sexuality? You know what I mean?
Right.
The whole, like, trying to legitimize sexuality is great, but at the same time, it's actually like vital. Like the fact that same-sex couples can get married now, the fact that, if I had a same-sex partner, I could go into the hospital if she got sick, like that kind of thing is fucking vital. And that needs to happen. In the 80s, that was not happening. Like people who were dying of AIDS were like their partners of many years sometimes were not allowed in the fucking hospital room with them because they weren't like, so there's a lot of reasons why legitimizing sexuality is great. But at the same time, it's like, but maybe everything's a choice. Like everything's a choice. Like now I identify as bi.
And things are also not a choice because, your sexual orientation is pretty much going to be hardwired. Whatever, even if it's fluid, it's hardwired to be fluid.
Well, sure, but like at the same time, every person you choose to have sex with, all the ways of having sex you choose to do, that's all you choosing to do that. Like I identify as bi now, and I talk about how I didn't realize it before, but at the same time, like all of my sexuality has to do with everything with my choices, the choices I make, the people I have tried to and have had relationships with. Like every choice I make has to do with my sexuality. So it's like, okay, well at the same time, sure, I was born bi, but at the same time, I've made lots of choices in my.
Well, true. And a gay man can choose never to have sex with a man. That doesn't mean he's not gay.
No, exactly. But then what, but then your sexuality is very, I don't know. It's incredibly complex and messy and wet and.
Well, that right there is a choice based upon cultural pressures. And we had gay men that made that
choice. And there's
choice,
that too. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And just because you do something doesn't make you that thing.
Right. It's this is essential. What you just said is essential. It's the difference between what you do and what you are.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
That's an essential difference.
And so do you think that this trope then erases that difference or exacerbates it?
The one of the guys?
Yes.
I think it messes the whole thing up because what it requires is that you forget or eradicate what you are in order to be able to do something that you want to do.
Right. Okay.
Like I talk about in the article a little bit, and I want to talk about it more when I write the book, is that I wasn't really, I've gone through pain in growing up, of course, like everybody does. Mm-hmm. But what I didn't realize was how painful it was to give up my womanhood in order to be one of the guys. And I had no idea at the time. I know I had a crush on this one person and who was being unrequited. That was painful. That was obvious. What I didn't get was how painful that was to be like, to have all those jokes. And actually we used that Vasquez joke in one of our scripts for one of the fight scenes.
You wrote about it in the article.
And it was like, just having that be just a constant was actually really painful. To give up what I was as a woman.
To not have it acknowledged
in order to do, not to have it acknowledged. Like you're saying, like to be told what I was instead of to be able to be what I actually was, which was very different than what I was being told.
Right.
Which is what you're saying too. And that's part of the pain that you're talking about. It's like, wait a minute. Come on. I'm actually very different than what you're telling me I am. And this is unfair, but like,
right.
So I think that's what the trope. That's why this trope is damaging. Is that it does make you give up what you are in order to do something that you want to do, as opposed to in a good, healthy, hopefully realistic way. You can be yourself and do the things that you want to do. You don't have to give up the one to do the other, or not do the things you want to do in order to be yourself.
Right.
And that's why the Éowyn thing, like I keep talking about, like she had to give up the fact that she was Éowyn, Shield Maiden, in order to go fight.
Well, she had to give up the appearance of it. Because
right,
in the end, it was ultimately important that she still be that, even though she was dressed as a man.
Absolutely. Yes. But in order to, she had to put it on a different name. She had to be called something else. She had to have different clothing on. She had to pretend to be someone else.
Right.
Up until that moment where she got to be like, hey, guess what?
I am no man. Right on, sister.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Okay, so
Does that
next
make
week.
sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Next week, we're only here for your vagina.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. We're only here for that. We're here for my pussy galore.
We're only here for Jenn's pussy galore.
Zuko's pussy. Actually, this is one thing that I used to always say when I was because one of the guys, like the band of young men, always had very homophobic and very misogynistic like slang that they'd always use.
Right.
So two things. One is that they would always call you faggot or pussy if you were being weak. It was just kind of the sort of jeering, jibing kind of like guy talk that they'd always have, especially in the 90s. Like no one was super like conscientious about that kind of thing. And so they're like, oh, you fucking pussy. And I'm like, well, I have a pussy. I am not a pussy myself, but I've got one. So I always like kind of throw that into the talk, and they'd be like, oh shit. And we kind of stop them and go, oh my God, okay, cool. But there was one piece of slang, and I actually talked about this in front of a burlesque audience, and I had like my boobs basically all not quite naked because you're not allowed to do that, but almost. Right. And this is a piece of slang. It was kind of based on surfer slang, I think, which is like if something was really cool or really awesome, it's like, oh, that's tits. And so it was like, oh, dude, that's tits. Oh, that's tits. So that was like the thing. It was cool. It was tits. And then I kind of
tits are cool.
Because tits are cool. There is, and my tits, however. So this is what because I'm one of the guys, right? And I use that slang for sure. And I'm like, oh, that's not just tits. That's my tits. Because my tits are fucking amazing, and they really are. And anyone who's seen them and experienced them will attest to this. And so all the guys were like, oh my God. And it was just a moment where it was like, I kind of, on the one hand, sort of reminded them, hey, I'm not actually a guy. I am one of the guys, but I'm kind of not a guy, though. But on the one hand, on the other hand, it was like, I am one of the guys, though. And so they completely embraced this. So whenever anything was really cool, it was, oh, it's tits. Whenever anything was especially cool, like unbelievably cool, is, oh, that's Zuko's tits. That's Zuko's tits. And that's really special because, that's tits is a total slang term that's like all over the country, basically. But only a very special band of young men knows what it is to have something be Zuko's tits. It's especially special. So that's my closing story, being one of the guys. That's Zuko's tits.
All right. Well, then we'll see each other next week, right?
Only for my vagina or Zuko's tits. I don't know.
Well, we'll see your vagina next week.
Oh, wow. No, I'm not allowed to go that far in burlesque. Burlesque, you have to be covered. You have to be pasties and a thong, at least.
An American. Pasties and American.
Pasties and American.
Everything comes around to pasties and American. It's all pasties and American. I'll see you next week, Jenn. The Outrider Podcast is recorded by me, Jason Quinn Malott, and cleaned up by my badass producer, Heather Ann Eden. The songs Choose and Adventure and Break and Mend used in this series are by Wichita-based band Cartwheel off their new EP, Best Days, and are used by permission of the copyright holder, Kristen Chapman. You can get Cartwheel's EP on Apple Music and Spotify, so visit them at www.cartwheel.band.